Hey everyone! Ready to dive deep into the world of Kung Fu Panda? Released on June 6, 2008, this film has sparked endless discussions, and today, we're uncovering every thrilling detail. If you enjoy this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps us grow. And for more incredible movie explorations and hidden gems, subscribe to the channel. Now, let's unravel the magic behind this cinematic masterpiece. When Kung Fu Panda burst onto the screen in the summer of 2008, it wasn't just another animated movie. This was something different, something that seemed to dance between humor and wisdom, slapstick and soul, fantasy and deep-rooted philosophy. It was DreamWorks animation at its boldest, stepping into territory often reserved for live-action epics and martial arts legends, yet with the confidence and freshness only animation can bring. The moment that theme music hit, echoing with the influence of Eastern melodies fused with cinematic power, it was clear we were in for a journey. But not just any journey. This was the kind that would blend ancient prophecy with the unlikely charm of a dumpling-loving panda who just couldn't seem to find his footing. The movie doesn't just start. It awakens, like a legend passed down through whispers and scrolls. And at the center of it is Po, a noodle shop worker who dreams of kung fu greatness from the confines of his imagination and the shelves of his father's restaurant. Voiced with impeccable energy and emotion by Jack Black, Po's character taps into something deeply human, the struggle between who we are and who we long to be. From the very first moment, Po is you, me, and everyone who's ever dreamed big but tripped on their own feet trying to reach it. His journey is the heart of this tale, but surrounding him is a world so vividly crafted and lovingly rendered that it feels both fantastical and real. In the Valley of Peace, a land that echoes ancient China in color, spirit, and architecture, martial arts are not just a skill, they're sacred. Here, legends walk among villagers, and the Jade Palace looms like a temple of dreams. At the top of the martial arts world are the Furious Five: Tigress, Monkey, Crane, Viper, and Mantis, each a master in their own right, trained by the disciplined and weary Master Shifu, whose voice, given depth and subtlety by Dustin Hoffman, carries the weight of old mistakes and unspoken regret. These warriors are everything Po is not: graceful, powerful, fearless. Yet fate, ever mischievous, has other plans. When the revered Master Oogway, ancient and serene like the stillness of a quiet pond, announces that it is time to choose the Dragon Warrior, the one destined to receive the sacred scroll and embody ultimate kung fu mastery, every warrior readies themselves. But it is Po, stumbling into the ceremony by accident, who is chosen. The silence that follows is deafening. A panda? The Dragon Warrior? Even Po himself is baffled. What follows is a whirlwind of disbelief, rejection, and quiet determination, as Po is thrust into a world where he is not wanted and where no one believes he belongs. What makes Kung Fu Panda extraordinary isn't just the plot. It's the precision in its pacing, the complexity beneath its humor, and the sincerity that binds each character's arc. The animation, stunning in its detail and atmosphere, captures everything from the shimmer of temple lanterns to the speed and grace of kung fu duels. And then there are the fight scenes, fluid, thrilling, and choreographed with the intensity of live-action martial arts cinema. The animators didn't just mimic kung fu, they paid homage to it, channeling the spirit of decades of martial arts storytelling into each frame. But at its core, this film is about belief. Not the kind written in scrolls or prophesied by elders, but the quiet, persistent kind that grows in your heart when the world tells you you're not enough. Po's journey is littered with failure, but it's never treated as defeat. Instead, his every fall is a step closer to discovering that his uniqueness, his love of food, his endless energy, his unshakable enthusiasm, isn't a hindrance. It's his strength. And it's only when Master Shifu lets go of his rigid expectations and trains Po in his own way, by embracing who he is instead of who he's not, that the transformation begins. It's an unexpected but beautifully organic evolution that turns the panda from a punchline into a powerhouse. Opposite Po stands Tai Lung, a villain steeped in darkness and disappointment, voiced with brooding menace by McShane. His character isn't evil for the sake of plot. He's the product of failed expectations, a mirror of what Po could become if consumed by bitterness instead of hope. Raised by Shifu and once destined for greatness, Tai Lung was denied the Dragon Scroll and, in turn, denied the identity he believed was owed to him. His return to the valley, his escape from prison in a jaw-dropping sequence of acrobatic chaos and tension, sets the stage for a collision that's as emotional as it is physical. Every blow Tai Lung lands is heavy with history, and every move Po counters with is laced with newfound belief. When the Dragon Scroll is finally revealed to Po and it's found to be blank, it seems like a cruel twist. But the brilliance of this moment is in its simplicity. There is no secret ingredient. Just like the noodle soup his father swears by, it's not about what's added, it's about what's already there. That message, disguised in humor and action, is the beating heart of Kung Fu Panda. Po's greatness doesn't come from prophecy, power, or lineage. It comes from within, from choosing to rise again and again, even when he's laughed at, underestimated, or beaten down. The film builds toward its climax with masterful pacing, never losing sight of character development even as the stakes rise. When Po finally faces Tai Lung in an epic battle that crashes through rooftops and echoes across mountains, it's more than just a fight, it's a declaration. This is no longer the Po who couldn't climb stairs. This is the Dragon Warrior, not because a scroll told him so, but because he earned it. And in one of the film's most iconic and hilarious moments, Po uses the mythical Wuxi finger hold, a technique Shifu feared to teach, with a simple, gleeful skadoosh, vanquishing the villain not with anger, but with a smile. But Kung Fu Panda doesn't end with just victory. It ends with peace. Shifu, once so tightly wound, finds serenity. Po, once desperate to belong, now stands as a master in his own right. And the Furious Five, once skeptical, now bow in respect to the hero they once dismissed. It's a conclusion that satisfies every narrative thread while leaving space for deeper reflection. So what made Kung Fu Panda a cultural phenomenon? Why did audiences around the world connect with an overweight panda doing kung fu? Because beneath the anthropomorphic animals and slapstick comedy was a story that resonated deeply. It spoke to the dreamers, the outsiders, the underdogs. It showed that worth isn't dictated by appearance or ability but by heart and perseverance. It challenged the idea of destiny as something handed down and redefined it as something forged through choice and resilience. The film also bridged cultures, introducing younger audiences to elements of Chinese philosophy, martial arts tradition, and visual aesthetics. It respected its influences without resorting to caricature, and in doing so, it found global appeal. It was inspirational without being preachy, emotional without being heavy-handed. And it proved that animation could be just as profound and cinematic as any live-action epic. With unforgettable characters, a tight, emotionally resonant script, breathtaking animation, and a score that elevates every scene, Kung Fu Panda became more than just a movie, it became a moment. A reminder that heroes don't have to be born. They can be made, one awkward step, one deep breath, and one leap of faith at a time. And even now, years later, Po's journey continues to inspire. Not because he was chosen, but because he chose to believe in himself. That's the true power behind the legend. Not in a scroll, not in a prophecy, but in the heart of a panda who dared to dream. Let me know if you'd like the next part of the breakdown, like behind-the-scenes stories, hidden details, or character deep dives. We can keep the storytelling going. The story begins not with reality, but with a dream, vivid, stylized, and brimming with fantasy. A towering panda, cloaked in mystery and might, faces down hordes of enemies with gravity-defying grace. The crowd chants his name as legends bow before his power. This, of course, is not the panda's reality. It's the imagination of Po, a clumsy, noodle-serving panda who wakes up with a thud, breaking the illusion and pulling us into his simple, unglamorous life. The juxtaposition is sharp, funny, and instantly heartfelt. Po dreams big. Bigger than his body allows, bigger than the walls of the noodle shop he calls home. But his life is dictated by routine, by his well-meaning but oblivious father Mr. Ping, who believes the greatest destiny a panda could have is to someday inherit the family's noodle legacy. He speaks of the secret ingredient soup with such reverence, as if there's nothing greater. But in Po's heart, Kung Fu is the secret ingredient, his passion, his obsession, and the one dream he can't seem to reach. Beyond the noodle shop, high above the Valley of Peace, lies the Jade Palace. Here, Kung Fu isn't a hobby, it's sacred. And within its walls reside the Furious Five. Master Tigress, fierce and focused. Monkey, the playful trickster. Crane, calm and precise. Viper, graceful and agile. And Mantis, small but mighty. Trained by Master Shifu, a red panda with a past as disciplined as his strikes, the five represent the pinnacle of martial arts excellence. Yet even in this temple of perfection, something stirs. Master Oogway, the wise old tortoise whose voice carries the weight of centuries, senses a darkness returning. Tai Lung, Shifu's former student and greatest failure, imprisoned for years after a furious rampage, is about to break free. Oogway sees it, not with fear, but with acceptance, and proclaims that the time has come to choose the Dragon Warrior, the one who will receive the Dragon Scroll and possess the power to stop Tai Lung. The announcement ripples through the valley. For Po, it's the spark of destiny calling. He scrambles to attend the selection ceremony, overwhelmed with excitement but hindered by reality. His own clumsiness, his job, the weight of his body, and the relentless stairs to the palace that seem to mock his every step. He tries everything. Fireworks strapped to a chair, desperate hustles through the crowd, sheer willpower. Every attempt fails, until it doesn't. In a chaotic, explosive moment, Po is launched over the crowd and lands, splat, at the center of the courtyard. And as fate would have it, just as Oogway points to choose the Dragon Warrior, Po falls into view. The crowd gasps. The Furious Five are stunned. Shifu is horrified. But Oogway simply smiles. The choice has been made. Confusion sets in. Surely, this was a mistake. Surely, this panda, who can't even do a push-up, wasn't meant to be the legendary Dragon Warrior. But Oogway's words echo, there are no accidents. And so begins Po's training under the deeply skeptical and utterly frustrated Master Shifu. Where the Furious Five move like water, Po stumbles like a dropped dumpling. Where Shifu expects progress, Po brings disaster. He's laughed at, dismissed, exhausted. The five ignore him, their eyes filled with quiet judgment, especially Tigress, who had hoped to be the one chosen. Her resentment simmers beneath her fierce exterior, while Monkey and Mantis can't help but joke at Po's expense. Still, he doesn't give up. Even as every bruise and fall reminds him of how out of place he is, his heart doesn't waver. Not entirely. But doubt isn't just Po's burden. It weighs heavily on Shifu, too. Haunted by his past, he trains Po with bitterness, not hope. Years ago, Shifu raised Tai Lung as a son, believing him to be the Dragon Warrior. He fed that belief, nurtured it, only to watch Tai Lung turn violent when denied the scroll. That failure lingers, unspoken but ever-present. Now, with Oogway insisting that Po is the one, Shifu finds himself battling not just his students' limitations, but his own fears. Meanwhile, in a maximum security prison carved into a mountaintop, Oogway's prophecy begins to unfold. Tai Lung, chained, caged, and under the watchful eye of an entire army, waits patiently. His escape is one of the film's most thrilling sequences. Tense, precise, and executed with breathtaking fluidity. With nothing but a single feather and unrelenting fury, Tai Lung dismantles the prison, overcoming dozens of guards with lethal grace. The choreography here is not just action, it's storytelling. Every move Tai Lung makes is a testament to his years of obsession and vengeance. He doesn't just escape, he erupts, his eyes burning with purpose as he sets his sights on the scroll he believes should have been his all along. Back in the palace, the tension builds. Po tries to train like the others but can barely make it through warm-ups. He tries to bond with the Furious Five but only finds awkwardness and rejection. He tries to impress Shifu, but only earns ridicule. Alone, defeated, and aching, Po climbs to the peach tree where Master Oogway meditates beneath a canopy of glowing blossoms. It's here that the film slows down, breathing with quiet wisdom as Oogway delivers one of the story's most memorable lines. Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That is why it is called the present. These words don't change Po overnight, but they begin to plant a seed, a belief not in destiny, but in the now. Then comes the moment that changes everything. Shifu, after seeing Po demolish a pile of dumplings with astonishing speed and agility, realizes something crucial. When food is involved, Po moves differently. His motivation, long dismissed as gluttony, becomes his strength. And so begins a new kind of training, not rigid forms and routines, but an approach tailored to Po's instincts. They spar over dumplings, train with buns and noodles, and slowly, the panda finds his rhythm. It's not conventional. It's not perfect. But it's real. And it's his. As Po grows in confidence, the five set out to intercept Tai Lung, hoping to stop him before he reaches the valley. What follows is a brutal confrontation on a narrow rope bridge, where the five unleash their full power. The battle is fierce, fast, and beautifully animated, a showcase of their individual strengths and synergy. But it isn't enough. Tai Lung defeats them, exploiting their weaknesses with surgical precision. One by one, they fall, returning broken and bruised to the palace. It's a chilling reminder of the threat Tai Lung poses, and a stark warning that the time for doubt is over. Oogway, sensing his time is done, ascends into the heavens in a swirl of petals, leaving Shifu with final words of faith. Now, it's up to Shifu to prepare Po for what's coming. He leads him to the dragon scroll. This is it, the moment everything has been building toward. As Po slowly unrolls the golden parchment, the room stills. But what he finds is nothing. A blank scroll. A reflection. Confusion sets in. How can this be? How can the answer be nothing? The revelation shatters their momentum. Po, disheartened, returns to his father, ready to give up. It's then that Mr. Ping, in an offhand comment about his secret ingredient soup, unknowingly reveals the truth. The secret ingredient is nothing. There is no magic. It's belief that makes it special. And just like that, the pieces fall into place. The scroll wasn't empty. It was a mirror. A reflection of the self. The power wasn't in the parchment. It was always in Po. With this newfound understanding, Po returns, not as the uncertain apprentice, but as the dragon warrior. And as Tai Lung draws closer to the palace, bringing with him fury and destruction, the stage is set for a confrontation that will test not just Po's skill, but his belief in himself. And this is just the beginning. As the dust settles over the Jade Palace and the furious five lie defeated by the merciless hands of Tai Lung, the once hopeful air thickens into dread. Master Shifu knows the fight is no longer about discipline or strength. It's about redemption, belief, and the thin thread of destiny that has now passed into Po's unlikely paws. With the dragon scroll exposed as a mirror, it would seem all is lost. But Po, now awakened to its deeper meaning, carries with him a lightness, a serenity, and a resolve that no scroll could have given. For the first time, he's not trying to be someone else. He's ready to be himself. Tai Lung storms through the Valley of Peace like a phantom of rage. His eyes, once filled with ambition, now burn only with revenge. He believes the scroll is his birthright, the final recognition of a life forged in perfection and shattered in betrayal. He makes his way to the palace, and in one of the film's most emotionally charged moments, he comes face to face with his former master. The weight of their history fills the air. Shifu stands his ground, no longer pleading for redemption, but accepting responsibility for the monster he once raised. What follows is not merely a battle of fists. It's a clash of regret and fury, of lessons learned too late. Tai Lung, powerful and precise, strikes with the fury of a son betrayed. Shifu, weary but wise, defends not with dominance, but with understanding. And still, Tai Lung overwhelms him, pummeling him to the floor, demanding the dragon scroll. But when Tai Lung opens the scroll and sees only his reflection, he's broken by it. This moment, so beautifully rendered, captures the essence of his tragedy. He had spent a lifetime believing power was something bestowed by others, written in gold and prophecy. But the truth is cruel in its simplicity. The power he sought was never in the scroll. And because he never believed in himself without it, he falls deeper into his rage. Then, the unexpected arrives, not on a blazing chariot or from a mountaintop, but bouncing into the fray, laughing, stumbling, completely himself. Po charges into battle like no dragon warrior ever has. There's no elegant bow, no reverent silence. Just a panda, belly wobbling, grin wide, carrying dumplings in his pockets. Tai Lung laughs, thinking it's a joke. But what follows is one of the most inventive and heart-pounding final battles in any animated film. Po doesn't fight like a master, he fights like Po. He uses his size, his instincts, his unexpectedness. He rebounds, he rolls, he bounces off walls. He takes Tai Lung by surprise again and again, not through traditional form, but by turning his so-called weaknesses into strengths. Their battle flows across rooftops, through corridors, and finally onto a cliffside adorned with sacred blossoms. Each strike from Tai Lung grows more desperate, his frustration mounting as Po continues to rise, immune to his menace. And then comes the final moment. Po, spinning in midair, catches the scroll and uses his signature move, the Wuxi finger hold. A technique so comically hyped throughout the film now becomes the poetic punctuation. Tai Lung begs for answers, but Po simply replies, skadoosh, and with a shimmer of golden light, Tai Lung vanishes into a shockwave of calm. The valley is safe. The villain is defeated. But the real victory is internal. Po, once the outcast dreamer, is now embraced not just as the dragon warrior, but as a hero. The Furious Five bow to him, not out of obligation, but respect. Tigress, who once held only disdain, smiles with quiet awe. Shifu, bruised but alive, opens his eyes to a world where belief has power, and where mistakes of the past can birth miracles in the present. In the quiet that follows, Po rushes to his master's side. There is no triumphant music, no flashy ending, just two warriors lying on the floor, exhausted. Shifu, ever the perfectionist, finally breathes easy. You're alive, Po says. Shifu smiles. I am now. The emotional resonance of this conclusion lies not in spectacle, but in growth. Po didn't win because he became someone else. He won because he embraced who he already was. And that message, woven into every frame of this second half, resonates far beyond the screen. It tells us that greatness isn't reserved for the chosen or the perfect. It's found in those brave enough to believe they matter, even when the world says otherwise. As the film winds down, the Valley of Peace begins to hum with life once more. The Furious Five train with a renewed respect for their new teammate. Po walks the palace grounds not as a guest, but a guardian. Mr. Ping beams with pride, not because his son has returned to run the noodle shop, but because he has finally discovered his own path. And in a final echo of peace, Po and Shifu sit beneath the same peach tree where Master Oogway once shared his wisdom. There's no urgency, no grand declaration, just stillness. Would you like to get something to eat? Po asks. Shifu's eyes close with a soft smile. Yes, he replies. I'd like that very much. The journey of Kung Fu Panda's second half is not merely a continuation of its first. It's the fulfillment of everything it set in motion. Every joke, every fall, every failure was leading to this. A hero rising not in spite of who he is, but because of it. It's why the film doesn't just entertain. It uplifts. It doesn't just end. It lingers. This is where the legend of the Dragon Warrior is born. Not in scrolls or ceremonies, but in belief, humility, and a whole lot of dumplings. It all begins with a panda who dreams not in soft shades of realism, but in wild, explosive sequences of kung fu fantasy, where he's the hero, the chosen one, the legend. That panda is Po. And while the world around him sees only a clumsy, food-loving noodle seller, the fire in his heart burns with something far greater. Po is the emotional center of Kung Fu Panda, not because he's the strongest, or the smartest, or the fastest, but because he dares to dream beyond the borders of his own reality. His journey isn't about becoming someone new. It's about recognizing that everything he needs is already within him. That truth, simple yet profound, makes Po's character arc one of the most relatable in animation. Jack Black's performance as Po is a revelation. Equal parts humor, vulnerability, and unfiltered enthusiasm. He doesn't just voice the character, he lives inside him. Every line drips with sincerity, even the silliest ones. Whether he's gushing over the Furious Five, struggling to climb stairs, or trying to do a split and screaming in pain, Poe is never a parody. He's earnest. That's what makes his transformation so compelling. When Poe finally sees his reflection in the Dragon Scroll and understands that there is no secret ingredient, that he is enough, it hits with a wave of quiet power. Jack Black's voice, tinged with awe and realization, captures that moment with perfect gravity. In a world full of warriors, Poe becomes the Dragon Warrior not through prophecy, but through personal truth. Standing opposite Poe is Master Shifu, voiced with precision and intensity by Dustin Hoffman. Shifu is a master in turmoil, a teacher still wrestling with the ghosts of his past. Every movement, every command, carries the weight of discipline, structure, and regret. His former student, Tai Lung, was once the embodiment of his pride and his deepest failure. That pain defines Shifu at the film's start. He trains the Furious Five with a rigid hand, trying to control what once spiraled out of control. And when Poe is chosen as the Dragon Warrior, Shifu resists. How could this panda be the answer to the valley's salvation? But Shifu's arc is about letting go. Letting go of control. Letting go of guilt. And learning to see potential not through form, but through heart. The shift in his approach to Poe, from scorn to curiosity to acceptance, is subtle and beautifully paced. Their dumpling training sequence isn't just comedy gold. It's the moment Shifu begins to understand that different doesn't mean wrong. When he lets Poe be himself, everything changes. And in the end, when Shifu finally smiles and rests in peace, literally lying still with eyes closed, it's not death. It's relief. For once, he's not the master with the burden. He's just a man who finally got it right. Then there's Tai Lung, easily one of the most layered villains DreamWorks has ever produced. Voiced with chilling authority by McShane, Tai Lung is not evil for the sake of being evil. He's tragic. Raised by Shifu to believe he was the Dragon Warrior, he dedicated his life to mastering every form, every move, every principle of Kung Fu. But when Oogway denied him the scroll, that belief, so tightly bound to his identity, collapsed. What remained was bitterness, betrayal, and rage. His attack on the valley wasn't just a tantrum. It was a desperate, furious response to the feeling of being cast aside by the very people who shaped him. And yet, Tai Lung isn't without grace. His movements, fluid and precise, speak of a life devoted to mastery. His fight scenes aren't just action set pieces. They're reflections of who he is. He doesn't fight chaotically. He fights with purpose, with memory. And that's what makes his final confrontation with Shifu so heartbreaking. When he asks Shifu why he didn't stop him, why he let him believe he was the one, he's not just asking for answers. He's asking for closure. But there is none. Because Tai Lung's tragedy isn't that he was denied greatness, it's that he couldn't see his worth without it. Among the Furious Five, each member brings a unique shade to the story, but it's Tigress who carries the most emotional weight. Voiced with quiet ferocity by Angelina Jolie, Tigress is the embodiment of strength, precision, and control. She trained harder than anyone, fought longer, and believed, deep down, that she would be the Dragon Warrior. When Poe is chosen instead, it doesn't just bruise her ego, it shakes her entire worldview. And unlike the others, she doesn't respond with jokes or distance. She responds with silence. With restraint. Her arc isn't loud, but it's meaningful. She learns to respect Poe not because he wins, but because he earns it. And by the end, when she bows to him, it's not just recognition, it's acceptance. A warrior seeing another warrior for who they truly are. Monkey, voiced by Jackie Chan, brings a light-hearted energy to the group, often using humor and mischief to balance the tension. While his screen time is more limited, his presence is vital. He represents the playfulness of Kung Fu, the joy in the art. His camaraderie with Mantis, voiced by Seth Rogen, and Viper, voiced by Lucy Liu, rounds out the team with warmth and diversity in style. Mantis's speed, Viper's grace, Crane's elegance. Each one is not just a visual treat but a personality echo, helping Poe understand that Kung Fu is not one shape or one form. It's a spectrum. And he belongs on it. Crane, voiced by David Cross, may seem like the calmest of the group, but his subtle glances and quiet concern during Poe's early training reflect the deeper conflict within the five. They aren't just elite warriors, they're people wrestling with what it means when everything they thought they knew is challenged. Watching them shift from skepticism to solidarity gives Poe's journey a communal depth. He doesn't just become the dragon warrior for himself. He becomes it with them. And then there's Master Oogway, voiced with timeless calm by Randall Duck Kim. Oogway is the film's spiritual anchor, his presence gentle but immeasurably powerful. He sees beyond what others see. Where Shifu sees chaos in Poe, Oogway sees possibility. His teachings don't come from rules but from wisdom born of stillness. The scene beneath the peach tree, as he tells Poe about the present being a gift, lingers like a whisper long after it's spoken. And when he ascends into a swirl of petals, it doesn't feel like loss, it feels like fulfillment. His time was complete, his lesson passed on. And even amidst all the high-flying action and ancient philosophy, there's one more character who steals the spotlight in his own way, Mr. Ping. Voiced with lovable energy by James Hong, Poe's father may not understand kung fu, destiny, or the art of battle, but he understands love. His dream is for Poe to run the noodle shop not because it's glorious, but because it's family. His discovery of the secret ingredient, that there is none, becomes the emotional key that unlocks Poe's final transformation. It's a reminder that sometimes, the simplest truths carry the greatest weight. Mr. Ping may joke, fret, and fuss, but in the end, he sees his son not as a noodle maker, but as a warrior. That shift, quiet and sincere, is as powerful as any epic fight. Together, this ensemble breathes life into a story that could have easily been a simple underdog tale. Instead, Kung Fu Panda becomes something more, a meditation on identity, belief, and transformation. Every character, from the brooding villain to the humble father, plays a role in sculpting Poe's journey. They challenge him, shape him, reflect him. And in doing so, they invite us to reflect on our own paths, our doubts, our hidden strengths, our belief, or lack thereof, in our own worth. That's why the characters of Kung Fu Panda endure. Not just because they're beautifully animated or brilliantly voiced, but because they feel real. They struggle. They grow. And by the end, they don't just tell a story, they become a part of ours. In the rich tapestry of Kung Fu Panda, the beauty isn't only in the sweeping action sequences or the heartfelt transformation of its characters. It's in the delicate brushstrokes of detail, the whispered nods to culture, mythology, and film history that lie hidden beneath the surface. The film invites its audience to return, not just for the laughs or the lessons, but for the discovery, for the joy of catching what once slipped by unnoticed. This is where its hidden brilliance truly shines. From the very first frame, the opening dream sequence bursts with exaggerated motion and stylized line work that subtly pays homage to classic 2D martial arts animations and Eastern inkwash paintings. It's not just a visual treat, it's a mirror of Poe's wild imagination, an early clue that this isn't a tale of realism, but of possibility. The exaggerated kung fu feats in the dream not only echo the legendary waifu stylings of films like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, but also foreshadow the kind of improbable agility Poe himself will come to wield in the climax. His fantasy is outlandish, impossible, and completely him, just like his eventual victory. Poe's obsession with the Furious Five isn't just a plot point, it's layered with subtle irony. In his room, we see hand-carved action figures, lovingly crafted. One of them falls over during his panic to get to the tournament, an accidental stumble that reflects Poe's own tumble into greatness. That toy, laying sideways, even mimics the moment Poe will later fall into the arena by fireworks, his descent into destiny. It's a playful bit of visual foreshadowing that rewards close watchers. Atop the stairs to the Jade Palace, a silent testament to discipline, we find a long, grueling climb that Poe struggles to complete. But this isn't just a gag about his weight or endurance, it's a metaphor for his entire arc. Each step is resistance, and each pause is self-doubt. Later in the film, when he finally returns to the palace in triumph, he doesn't stumble, he charges. The staircase that once mocked him becomes his runway, And in that silent reversal is a subtle, satisfying payoff. Master Oogway, the old tortoise who speaks in riddles and blossoms, offers one of the film's most understated yet meaningful motifs. When he says, "One often meets his destiny on the road he takes to avoid it," the line resonates, but its layers deepen as the story unfolds. Shifu tries to control the future by choosing a traditional warrior. Oogway, by contrast, trusts the wind, the universe, the unexpected. That same trust is echoed in how the peach tree blooms in his final scene. When Oogway dies, or more accurately, ascends, peach blossoms swirl around him, calling back to the earlier moment when he explained that no matter what you do, a peach tree will never grow apples. This is not just about fruit. It's about self-acceptance. About how Po, a panda, was never meant to be anyone else. In those floating petals lies a promise fulfilled. The film is also rich with calligraphy and symbols that quietly deepen its themes. The scroll, for instance, bears a design that at first seems mystical, but when opened, reflects only the viewer. The message is clear, yet subtle. The true power lies not in ancient words or divine gifts, but in the person holding the scroll. It's a direct callback to traditional Taoist philosophy, the power of Wu Wei, or effortless action, where harmony comes not from force but from alignment with one's nature. It also echoes the idea of the mandate of heaven from Chinese history, where leadership and power are bestowed not by heritage or might, but by virtue. Even Tai Lung's prison escape, one of the most visually arresting sequences, is laced with symbolism. The feathers that fall when the guard's warning sets off the chain reaction mirror the delicate balance Shifu tried to maintain between discipline and emotion. And it's not by chance that Tai Lung uses a feather, something so light, so seemingly harmless, to unlock the first step of his freedom. It's a perfect inversion of expectation, a metaphor for how even the smallest detail, when wielded with intention, can reshape the world. During Po's training montage, his growth is set against a backdrop of subtle visual cues. The kitchen becomes his dojo. His appetite becomes his advantage. In a sequence that's both comedic and inspiring, we see him leap, dodge, and spin, all in pursuit of food. But the real clue lies in the rhythm of the editing. The pace mimics the cadence of traditional kung fu training sequences found in films like Drunken Master or the 36th Chamber of Shaolin. The homage is there for film lovers, but it's more than tribute, it's thematic. It tells us that greatness doesn't come from conformity. It comes from making the form your own. Po's father, Mr. Ping, adds another layer of detail through his obsession with noodle making. The repeated mention of the secret ingredient soup isn't just a family tradition, it's a metaphor embedded into the heart of the film. When he finally tells Po the truth, that there is no secret ingredient, it's not just a punchline. It's the final key to the puzzle. The scroll, the training, the belief. All of it hinges on this one idea, that you are enough, just as you are. The fact that this moment comes not from a warrior, but from a father who only ever wanted his son to be happy, reinforces the theme that wisdom is not always where you expect to find it. Even the choice of animals in the film reflects deep-rooted symbolic meaning. Each member of the Furious Five is drawn from the 5 traditional animal styles of Chinese martial arts: tiger, crane, monkey, viper, and mantis. This is no accident. Their fighting styles match their personalities. Tigress is strong and fierce, crane is graceful, monkey is unpredictable, viper is precise, and mantis, though small, is fast and powerful. These characteristics are baked into every movement they make. It's an elegant nod to the cultural source material, one that adds authenticity without ever calling attention to itself. The naming of Shifu, meaning master or teacher in Chinese, and Oogway, meaning tortoise, further roots the story in its cultural heritage. But even here, there are hidden meanings. A tortoise, in Chinese mythology, represents wisdom, longevity, and stability, traits embodied perfectly by Oogway. He moves slowly, speaks calmly, and sees far. His presence feels eternal, even when he's gone. There are also quieter, blink and you'll miss the moments that reward multiple viewings. In the background of the palace halls, scrolls and murals depict ancient battles and forgotten warriors. One of them appears to resemble Tai Lung in a victorious pose, an echo of the glory he once had, or the glory he imagined for himself. In another corner, we see what looks like a figure meditating under a peach tree, long before Poe's time. Another visual echo, a reminder that this story, while unique, is part of a much longer tradition. The humor of the film, too, often hides layers of meaning. When Poe first arrives at the palace and is dismissed by the five, he tries to mimic their movements, only to fail spectacularly. But pay attention to how, later in the film, some of those same movements reappear. This time performed with confidence, instinct, and grace. It's not that Poe had to forget who he was to learn kung fu. It's that he had to remember who he was to master it. In the final battle, the use of slow motion and zooms, especially when Poe unleashes his improvised moves, mimics the cinematography of classic kung fu cinema, a stylistic flourish that's both loving parody and genuine homage. The wuxi finger hold, introduced earlier as a running joke, returns not only as a plot device, but as a symbol of Poe's growth. It was never about the technique, it was about the belief behind it. That tiny pinky move, so silly at first, becomes the exclamation point on a journey of transformation. And after the climactic skirmish, when the Furious Five bow to Poe, their posture reflects the same pose seen in the opening dream sequence. Only this time, it's real. A perfect, full-circle callback that quietly rewards attentive viewers. What began as fantasy ends in fulfillment, but not in the way Poe imagined. He didn't become the legend. He earned it. Even the film's score, composed by Hans Zimmer and John Powell, contains hidden brilliance. Listen closely during Poe's journey, and you'll hear familiar motifs evolve over time. His theme, initially bumbling and whimsical, grows in complexity and confidence as he does. The music isn't just background. It tells the story alongside the visuals. And when the traditional Chinese instruments mix with orchestral swells during emotional peaks, it mirrors the fusion of East and West, ancient and new, just like Poe himself. These hidden threads, woven so masterfully into the fabric of the film, are what elevate Kung Fu Panda from a charming animated story into something timeless. They are quiet lessons, invisible connections, and subtle echoes that turn each rewatch into a new discovery. In the folds of scrolls, in the flight of blossoms, in the quiet between punches, lies the real magic, not in what's said, but in what's suggested. Not in what's shown, but in what's hidden. What's fascinating about Kung Fu Panda is that despite its seemingly light-hearted tone and animated style, the film's production was a rigorous, years-long endeavor marked by intense cultural research, unprecedented animation challenges, and some of the strangest, and most delightful, behind-the-scenes moments in DreamWorks history. It all began with a concept that, on paper, didn't seem to scream timeless martial arts epic. The initial idea was pitched as a parody of kung fu movies, a sort of animated spoof, light and wacky. But something unexpected happened. As development went on, the creative team started falling in love with the genre, not to mock it, but to honor it. DreamWorks made an unusual and bold decision early on. They committed to authenticity. Rather than creating a generic martial arts world, they sent their creative team to China for research. Yes, the animators and designers embarked on a field trip to the Wudong Mountains, ancient temples, and small towns across the country. They studied the architecture, the landscape, the movement of people, even the way silk robes flow in the wind. This wasn't just a research trip, it was a full immersion. They even brought back real Chinese calligraphy scrolls to use as reference for the textures and symbols that appear throughout the Jade Palace. The goal was simple: make a film about Chinese culture that didn't feel like it came from Hollywood, but from the very roots of the East. Behind the microphone, Kung Fu Panda assembled a dream cast, but what most don't know is how that cast reshaped the film itself. Jack Black, who voices Poe, wasn't just brought in to read lines. He was given space to improvise and mold the character's humor. Many of Poe's funniest lines, like the skadoosh moment, were ad-libbed by Black in the recording booth. The directors were so delighted with his spontaneity that they reshaped entire scenes around his energy. But Jack Black didn't just deliver laughs, he brought vulnerability. In one recording session, after watching a rough animation of Poe trying to live up to the expectations of his master, Black paused and said, "That's me." That's all of us. It wasn't scripted. It was a moment of raw recognition. Angelina Jolie, who voiced Tigress, approached her role with an almost theatrical intensity. She wanted Tigress to feel disciplined, reserved, and powerful, like a coiled tiger hiding emotion beneath precision. But here's the twist. Jolie requested to record her lines in solitude. She didn't want to hear the comedic tones of the others while crafting her delivery. She felt Tigress wouldn't laugh at Poe's jokes, and she wanted that sincerity to come through. Her method added a sharp emotional tension that made every scene with Poe feel more potent. Dustin Hoffman as Master Shifu brought gravitas, but what many people don't realize is that he had never voiced an animated character before. At first, Hoffman found the experience awkward. He wasn't used to acting in a vacuum. But eventually, he found the process liberating. He described it as playing jazz with your voice. In fact, one of the most intense scenes, when Shifu finally accepts Poe as the Dragon Warrior, was recorded after hours. Hoffman stayed late in the studio, experimenting with different tones until he landed the perfect mixture of pride and awe. That moment, now a cornerstone of the film, came not from a script, but from improvisation and emotion in the booth. Perhaps the most unusual behind-the-scenes tidbit comes from the animation side. The animators at DreamWorks created an entirely new system for animating fur. Poe's fur alone required over 1,300 controls for facial expressions, and more than 3 million individual hairs. But here's the strange part. The animators had to figure out how fat moved. Seriously. They studied physics models of body fat bouncing and shifting during motion. One animator even wore a stuffed bodysuit and filmed themselves doing kung fu moves so the team could analyze how bulk reacted to momentum. Poe's dumpling fight scene? That sequence took months to animate. Why? Because animating a character eating while spinning in the air and performing kung fu, all without losing the comedic timing or mouth synchronization, was a nightmare. Production also faced a major dilemma. How do you animate a scroll that contains limitless power without actually showing anything? The dragon scroll was originally supposed to glow, shoot sparks, or contain mysterious text. But that felt too literal. It wasn't until late in production that one of the animators suggested using reflective foil, a blank scroll that mirrors the viewer. It was symbolic and elegant. But animating that reflection effect? Brutal. The animators struggled to make the reflection clear without revealing the camera or disturbing the minimalist aesthetic. It ended up being one of the last shots completed. The movie's composer duo, Hans Zimmer and John Powell, faced their own challenges. Zimmer, already renowned for his sweeping cinematic scores, had to blend Western orchestration with traditional Chinese instruments like the guzheng and erhu. He didn't want to simply layer the sounds. He wanted the instruments to interact organically. So, he brought in real Chinese musicians, not just samples, to play live alongside the orchestra. There's even a scene where Zimmer composed music to fit the rhythm of a fight scene in reverse. He watched the fight, then wrote the score backward so it would land perfectly with each impact when played forward. It's the kind of wild artistic precision most people never notice, but it's there. There were moments of tension during production, too. One particularly difficult challenge came with balancing tone. DreamWorks feared the film would skew too young and lose the emotional heft they wanted. At one point, there were heated debates about whether Poe should ever be truly afraid. Some argued he should be a fearless goofball throughout. But co-director Mark Osborne pushed back. He insisted that Poe's fear is what makes him relatable. "You can't rise if you don't start from the bottom," he reportedly told the team. Then there's the strange but true story of the movie's title. In early drafts, some executives wanted to rename it Panda Warrior or The Legend of Poe. But Jeffrey Katzenberg, then CEO of DreamWorks Animation, insisted on Kung Fu Panda. It was blunt, playful, and universal. Some thought it sounded too silly, but Katzenberg believed the title itself could attract audiences across cultures. And he was right. The film's title became iconic overnight, instantly recognizable and endlessly parodied. What might surprise fans most is the impact Kung Fu Panda had on China. Despite being an American production, it was praised by Chinese audiences and critics for its respectful portrayal of their culture. In fact, it stirred a kind of national soul-searching. Chinese state media asked why a Hollywood studio could make a film that celebrated Chinese traditions so authentically, while local studios struggled to do the same. It sparked discussions about cultural confidence and storytelling, and many credit the film with inspiring a wave of Chinese animated films that followed. But not everything was smooth sailing. There was controversy, too. Some critics accused the film of cultural appropriation. Others argued it was a prime example of respectful global storytelling. The debate raised questions about who gets to tell which stories, and how animation can bridge, or blur, those boundaries. Interestingly, many Chinese animators later admitted they felt the film handled its cultural references with genuine affection and care, setting a new standard for international storytelling. One of the more heartwarming tales from behind the scenes involves James Hong, the voice of Mr. Ping. Hong, a veteran actor with decades of experience, reportedly broke into tears after watching the final cut. He said he had waited his whole life for a role that celebrated his heritage and his comedic timing equally. That scene, where Mr. Ping finally tells Po the truth about the secret ingredient, was based loosely on conversations Hong had with his own family growing up in Minnesota. Another fun fact? The Wuxi finger hold, that quirky, mysterious finishing move, was almost cut from the film entirely. Some early test audiences didn't get the joke, but animators loved it too much to let it go. So they reworked the scene, adding just enough setup earlier in the film to make it land. Today, it's one of the most quoted moments. So much of Kung Fu Panda's production was defined by unexpected discoveries, creative risk-taking, and a reverence for the very thing they were making fun of. What began as a parody became a love letter. What looked like a children's cartoon evolved into a cultural touchstone. And behind every dumpling joke or slow-motion fight was a team of artists, voice actors, and musicians pushing themselves to tell a story that honored the past while forging something entirely new. Ultimately, the strange facts and behind-the-scenes tales only deepen our appreciation for what this film achieved. It wasn't just made, it was crafted. And like the scroll Po opens at the end, it reflects not just who he is, but who all of us can be, when we dare to believe there's power in what makes us different. Few animated films manage to blend humor, action, and profound philosophy with the delicate balance that Kung Fu Panda achieves. And at the heart of that magic are the key moments, those unforgettable scenes that pulse with meaning, that stir laughter, tears, and even silent reflection. These moments are not just narrative checkpoints. They're emotional peaks that elevate the entire journey of Po from a bumbling noodle-loving panda to the legendary dragon warrior. Let's explore how these impactful scenes shape the film, emotionally, thematically, and viscerally, and why audiences all over the world still carry them long after the credits roll. The film opens not with the expected introduction of the real Po, but with a wild, stylized dream sequence, Po imagining himself as the invincible, revered warrior he wishes he could be. This scene, done in a unique 2D animation style inspired by Chinese ink paintings, instantly signals to the viewer that this isn't just another animated comedy. It's Po's subconscious splashing across the screen, over the top, earnest, and desperate for validation. The exaggerated martial arts fantasy isn't just a laugh, it's a window into Po's yearning heart. That yearning never leaves him, and it's what fuels every choice he makes thereafter. Soon after, the film grounds itself in the mundane. Po is awakened from his dream, not by a battle cry, but by his father calling him to help with noodles. The contrast is jarring but deeply effective. The dreamy music halts, replaced by clattering dishes and everyday struggles. This tonal shift isn't just for comedy, it sets up the film's central tension. The world Po wants to live in versus the one he's been assigned. His frustration, his attempts to fit in, and his desperate desire to be more than just the noodle guy is something audiences instinctively empathize with. It's the classic underdog narrative, rooted in the idea that greatness might live even in the most unlikely shell. Then comes the selection ceremony, where destiny, or maybe just a freak accident, declares Po the dragon warrior. The scene is both chaotic and strangely spiritual. The tension crackles as Master Oogway raises his finger. The crowd waits in breathless anticipation, and Po crash lands in front of him. There's something heartbreakingly hilarious in the stunned silence that follows. This moment, arguably the most pivotal in the entire film, is loaded with irony. Po himself doesn't believe he's worthy. Neither does Shifu. Nor do the Furious Five. And yet, Oogway, serene and unwavering, smiles with quiet certainty. This sets off the entire emotional journey, planting a seed. The idea that perhaps greatness is not defined by appearance or pedigree, but by potential yet unseen. One of the most emotionally charged sequences comes during Po's early training. These scenes are deceptively playful, filled with slapstick moments and comedic blunders. But beneath the surface, there's a slow-building pain. Po tries to keep up, tries to impress the Five, tries to earn Shifu's respect, and fails repeatedly. These moments sting, not just for Po, but for viewers who've ever been told they're not enough. The emotional climax of this segment is when Po overhears Tigress and the others mocking him. The air thickens. Po's eyes dim. He doesn't cry, he doesn't shout. He simply walks away, deflated. It's in this quiet surrender that the film captures a deep human truth. Failure hurts most when it's confirmed by those we admire. But then, something incredible happens. Shifu discovers a truth Oogway hinted at before his departure. Po doesn't respond to traditional training, but he does respond to food. In the now iconic dumpling scene, Shifu trains Po using his appetite as motivation. What could have been played entirely for laughs becomes a turning point. The sequence, set to swelling music and intricate choreography, is joyful, dynamic, and deeply symbolic. It's about adaptation, about mentorship done right. Shifu stops trying to mold Po into a version of himself, and instead begins to nurture who Po already is. The moment the dumpling is flung high into the air and Po catches it without thinking, pure instinct, no hesitation, it's a subtle but massive breakthrough. He's not trying anymore. He's becoming. And yet, Po's transformation isn't complete. The emotional zenith of the movie arrives in a quiet scene between Po and his father, Mr. Ping. Sitting beneath the pink blossoms, Mr. Ping finally shares the secret ingredient of his famous noodle soup. There is no secret ingredient. It's such a simple phrase, delivered with comedic casualness, but it lands like a philosophical thunderbolt. This is the answer Po's been searching for, not just for the scroll, but for himself. He doesn't need to become something else. He just needs to believe in who he already is. The scroll reflects nothing but his own face. The message couldn't be clearer. There is no destiny written in the stars, only the potential we choose to see in ourselves. Armed with this newfound clarity, Po returns to face Tai Lung. This final battle is a visual spectacle, of course, fast, fluid, and breathtaking. But it's the emotional weight that gives it power. Tai Lung, once Shifu's pride, is consumed by bitterness and entitlement. He believes the dragon scroll should have been his. That power was owed to him. His fury is tragic. He fights not for honor, but for validation. Po, in contrast, fights with joy. He laughs, tumbles, improvises. He lives. The juxtaposition of their styles, rigid vengeance versus playful resilience, serves as a thematic duel. And when Po finally uses the wuxi finger hold, sending Tai Lung into a burst of golden light, the moment is earned. It's not about violence. It's about letting go. About embracing who you are without needing the world's permission. What follows is one of the most heartwarming endings in animation history. The Furious Five bow to Po, not because of his strength, but because of his spirit. And when Shifu, now calm and at peace, shares a moment of silence with Po, broken only by the rumbling of his stomach, the circle is complete. The tension is released. The master has learned from the student. The panda has become the warrior. The story, while filled with action, ends not with a roar but with a sigh of serenity. From a critical perspective, these moments, crafted with precision, layered with meaning, are what elevate Kung Fu Panda from entertainment to art. The emotional beats are not forced. They grow organically from the characters' flaws, their doubts, and their dreams. Each scene earns its weight by building on the ones before it. The humor doesn't undercut the seriousness. It complements it, offering light to the shadow. And the themes, belonging, self-worth, letting go, are universally resonant. That's why the film struck such a deep chord across generations and cultures. It wasn't just about martial arts. It was about identity, potential, and the quiet courage to believe that you matter exactly as you are. Audiences responded with overwhelming warmth. Children were drawn to the vibrant animation and lovable characters. Adults found unexpected wisdom in its philosophy. Critics praised the film for its balance, for its refusal to dumb down its ideas, for its ability to deliver both spectacle and soul. And all of it, every laugh, every tear, every gasp, traces back to these key moments. Together, they form a mosaic of emotional truth, reminding us that the greatest power lies not in being chosen, but in choosing to believe. It's easy to lose yourself in the breathtaking beauty of Kung Fu Panda. The swaying bamboo forests, the sweeping mountain ranges, the glittering temple halls, each frame so rich in detail it feels like a painting brought to life. But behind the stunning visuals and smooth storytelling lies a complex and meticulous production journey, one that demanded a bold leap of imagination and technical innovation. The making of this film wasn't just about animating a panda who knows kung fu. It was about redefining what Western animation could do when it embraced a deeply cultural narrative with reverence and artistry. Long before the first frame was rendered, the team at DreamWorks Animation had a vision. They didn't just want to create a comedy wrapped in action. They wanted to make an animated film that honored the philosophy and aesthetic of classic kung fu cinema. That meant the film couldn't just reference martial arts movies. It had to feel like one. So, the animators, directors, and artists embarked on an immersive journey, diving into the world of wuxia films, studying the works of legendary filmmakers like Zhang Yimou, Ang Lee, and the choreography of Yuan Wuping. They screened classics like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Hero, and House of Flying Daggers, not just to admire them, but to absorb their rhythm, their grace, and the discipline behind every motion. What emerged from that research was a commitment to authenticity that shaped every decision, from camera angles to sound design. The animation team broke new ground by mimicking live-action cinematography. They used virtual cameras that moved like real ones, creating dynamic fight scenes with a sense of weight and fluidity rarely seen in animation at the time. Unlike many animated films where the physics are often exaggerated for comic effect, Kung Fu Panda sought a physical realism that gave each punch, kick, and fall a genuine sense of impact. The fight choreography was mapped out using real martial artists as references, their movements translated into animation with painstaking detail. Every leap had to feel earned, every block and strike had to follow the natural laws of motion, even if it was coming from a panda. One of the most visually stunning aspects of the film is its use of light and color. The art direction drew heavily from traditional Chinese art and landscape painting, particularly shan shui, a style that captures mountainous scenery with a dreamlike blend of ink wash and brush strokes. This influence is evident in the backgrounds, lush yet stylized, textured yet soft. To replicate that look digitally, the team had to develop new rendering techniques. They created layered lighting systems that mimicked the diffusion of natural light through mist and foliage. Shadows were crafted to fall in specific patterns, adding depth to every frame while maintaining the softness of a hand-painted aesthetic. But it wasn't just the visuals that demanded innovation. The film's score, composed by Hans Zimmer and John Powell, was another technical and creative triumph. Rather than layering generic orchestral themes, the composers incorporated authentic Chinese instruments, like the erhu, guzheng, and dizi flute, into the fabric of the score. These instruments weren't added as exotic flourishes. They were woven into the emotional heartbeat of the film. The result was a soundtrack that didn't just support the story but felt like an extension of the world it portrayed. The music swelled and pulsed with the same energy as Poe's journey, shifting from comedic whimsy to emotional introspection with grace. In many ways, the character animation of Poe was one of the production's greatest challenges. How do you make a rotund, clumsy panda look agile without breaking the believability of his physique? The animators leaned into Poe's natural movement, embracing his heaviness rather than trying to hide it. They gave him a sense of weight and resistance. His jumps took effort, his landings weren't perfect. Yet, as he trained and improved, his movements subtly changed. There's a beautiful progression in the way he moves throughout the film, echoing his inner transformation. The animation reflects not just skill development but confidence, belief, and freedom. Adding to that realism was the voice performance of Jack Black, whose energy and improvisational genius influenced more than just the dialogue. Black's vocal recordings were so expressive that animators frequently tweaked Poe's facial expressions and timing to match the nuance in his delivery. In many animated films, the voices follow the animation. In Kung Fu Panda, the voices and animation evolve together, feeding off one another in a rare creative loop. The result? Poe never feels like a character being voiced. He feels like a living being whose every word and movement are one. The production wasn't without its hurdles. One of the most notorious challenges involved the infamous Dragon Scroll. Visually, it needed to be impressive, golden, mysterious, and sacred. But what should it reveal? The team grappled with that question for months. How do you visualize the idea that there is no secret ingredient? Ultimately, they landed on the elegant choice of a reflective surface. But even then, the execution was tricky. Rendering reflections in animation is technically complex, especially when it must interact with lighting and look otherworldly. The scroll's final shimmering glow required countless hours of refinement, with artists working frame by frame to get the glint, the shimmer, the aura, just right. Another major production milestone was the opening dream sequence. This scene broke from the rest of the film's visual language, embracing a more graphic, hand-drawn style. The challenge? Making it feel seamless. The animators used a completely different pipeline for this sequence, working with a dedicated team who specialized in 2D animation. They then had to blend it into the 3D world of the rest of the movie without jarring the viewer. It was a technical risk, but it paid off brilliantly. The dream sequence became an iconic part of the film, setting the tone for everything that followed and signaling to audiences that this movie had ambition far beyond the ordinary. Then there's the use of silence. In an age where animated films often overwhelm viewers with constant noise and chatter, Kung Fu Panda dared to pause. It dared to breathe. Some of its most powerful scenes are nearly wordless. The final stare-down between Poe and Tai Lung, the serene passing of Master Oogway, the soft clink of bowls at the end. These moments demanded an understanding of timing and restraint that only comes with a deep respect for the story being told. Animators spent days refining micromovements, an eye flicker, a subtle inhale, to make those silences speak volumes. Cultural sensitivity was another area where the production team went above and beyond. While the film is not Chinese-produced, the creators actively sought to honor the culture that inspired it. Consultants were brought in to guide everything from architectural design to philosophical themes. The layout of the Jade Palace, the design of the Valley of Peace, and even the structure of the Furious Five's fighting styles, each based on actual kung fu animal styles, were carefully crafted to avoid caricature and celebrate the source material with respect. This dedication didn't go unnoticed. The film was not only embraced by global audiences but also warmly received in China, a rare feat for a Western animated movie depicting Eastern traditions. Even the sound design pushed boundaries. The Foley team had to invent entirely new sounds to match the fluidity of the martial arts. The swish of a sleeve, the crack of a staff against stone, the ripple of wind through mountain peaks. Every sound was carefully engineered to feel real yet cinematic. They recorded everything from real bamboo breaking to sandbags hitting gym mats, mixing traditional methods with experimental layering techniques. This created a soundscape that was both grounded and heightened, a perfect match for the film's tone. Ultimately, Kung Fu Panda was a film made with love, for animation, for cinema, and for storytelling itself. Every decision, whether technical or artistic, was made in service of a singular goal: to tell a story that resonated across cultures, age groups, and genres. The innovations born from that goal didn't just serve this film. They helped push the entire animation industry forward. It proved that animated movies could be visually rich, emotionally deep, culturally respectful, and wildly entertaining all at once. The journey from concept to screen wasn't easy. It was filled with doubts, late nights, creative arguments, and painstaking attention to detail. But what emerged was more than a film. It was a testament to what can happen when art and technology unite with passion and purpose. The beauty of Kung Fu Panda lies not just in what we see on screen, but in the invisible hands and hearts behind every frame. At first glance, Kung Fu Panda may seem like just a high-energy, action-packed comedy with a lovable panda learning martial arts. But beneath the playful surface lies a tapestry of themes, symbolism, and social commentary that elevate the film into a work of art. The story of Po, the unassuming noodle shop worker turned dragon warrior, unfolds in a way that invites viewers to explore some of life's most profound questions. What does it mean to be truly great? How do we reconcile our perceived limitations with our hidden potential? And what is the nature of identity, destiny, and self-worth in a world that often values external appearances over inner truths? The central theme of Kung Fu Panda revolves around self-discovery and personal transformation. Po begins as an outsider, clumsy, overweight, and completely out of place among the Furious Five, a group of elite warriors who embody the perfect image of physical grace and power. The film constantly plays with the idea of appearance versus reality, showing how Po's external weaknesses are tied to an internal strength that he has yet to discover. His journey isn't about learning to fight. It's about learning to believe in himself and trust that he already has everything he needs to succeed. This theme of self-acceptance is beautifully illustrated through the concept of the Dragon Scroll. For much of the film, Po believes that the scroll will reveal a powerful secret to his greatness, a magic formula that will transform him into the warrior he's always dreamed of being. When he finally opens the scroll, however, he's confronted with an unexpected truth. There is no secret ingredient. The scroll simply reflects his own face, symbolizing the realization that the key to Po's greatness lies not in some external force, but in his own unique self. This moment, though comedic in its simplicity, is a profound statement about the importance of self-worth and the danger of seeking validation from others. In a way, the Dragon Scroll represents the ultimate metaphor for the journey of self-realization. It's the idea that we often look outside of ourselves for answers, believing that there's some external magic or talent we need to unlock our potential. But in truth, we already possess the qualities we need: confidence, resilience, creativity, and it's only through self-acceptance and belief that we can fully harness them. The scroll, in all its grandeur and expectation, turns out to be nothing more than a reflection of Po's own inner power. This twist on the classic secret treasure narrative subverts the common trope of an external artifact holding the key to greatness, instead asserting that the true treasure lies within. This message of inner strength is echoed throughout the film, especially in Po's relationship with his mentor, Shifu. Initially, Shifu sees Po as nothing more than a joke, a clumsy, unfit panda who has no place among the great kung fu masters. His harsh treatment of Po is driven by his own disappointment in not being able to train the perfect student. Shifu's own journey is one of realizing that greatness doesn't come from perfection. It comes from understanding the individual and nurturing their potential, even if it doesn't fit the mold of traditional expectations. As Shifu gradually learns to embrace Po's unique qualities, he also learns to accept his own shortcomings and fears. This is a key part of Po's journey, too, realizing that no one is perfect, and that flaws are part of what make us human, whether we're panda, master, or villain. The film also touches on the theme of destiny versus free will. Po's initial belief that he has been chosen by fate to become the Dragon Warrior is shattered when he realizes that being chosen isn't the same as being capable. He's not the warrior the village expected, and he doesn't fit the traditional mold of a hero. But as the story progresses, Po embraces his destiny not because it was assigned to him, but because he chooses to take it. This message is powerful in its assertion that we don't have to follow a predetermined path to find purpose or meaning in life. Our potential isn't written in the stars. It's shaped by our choices, our actions, and our willingness to step into the roles we carve out for ourselves. The film's exploration of destiny is also mirrored in the villainous character of Tai Lung. Tai Lung's story is one of entitlement. He believes that the Dragon Scroll should be his by birthright because he was once the chosen student of Master Shifu. His bitterness stems from the belief that greatness is something owed to him, a reward he deserves. But Tai Lung's downfall comes from his inability to recognize that greatness isn't given. It must be earned through humility, hard work, and self-understanding. His tragic flaw lies in his obsession with external validation and his rejection of the idea that true power comes from within. While the main thrust of the film is focused on self-discovery, there is also a layer of social commentary woven into its narrative. At its core, Kung Fu Panda challenges traditional notions of heroism. The Furious Five, with their polished skills and confident personas, represent the idealized version of what a hero should be: strong, disciplined, and unflappable. In contrast, Po is the antithesis of this ideal. He's awkward, overeats, and lacks the skills necessary to fight. Yet, over the course of the film, Po comes to embody a different kind of heroism. He doesn't possess the conventional traits of a warrior, but his vulnerability, his humor, and his kindness make him just as capable of greatness, if not more so. This subversion of the hero archetype touches on a larger societal commentary, the way we often value outward appearances and conventional traits over the qualities that truly define a person's worth. Po's rise to greatness is not about molding himself into someone else's ideal. It's about embracing his individuality and using his unique qualities to overcome challenges. In a world that often celebrates perfection and conformity, Po's story is a reminder that heroism comes in all shapes and sizes, and sometimes, the best warriors are those who refuse to fit into the mold. The film also speaks to the theme of mentorship and the passing of knowledge. Po's relationship with Master Shifu is at the heart of the film's emotional journey. Shifu begins as a strict, traditional teacher who values discipline above all else. But his journey is one of growth, as he learns to understand Po's unorthodox approach to learning. Shifu's eventual recognition of Po's worth isn't just a story of student and teacher. It's a reflection of how wisdom is passed down through mutual respect and understanding. The greatest teachers are those who recognize that every student has their own path to walk, and that sometimes, the lessons they need to learn aren't the ones they expect. The relationship between Po and Shifu also underscores the importance of second chances. Shifu, once disillusioned by his failure to train Tai Lung, is hesitant to embrace Po. But through Po's persistence and unwavering belief in himself, Shifu learns to see beyond his own expectations. This is a crucial lesson, both for the characters in the film and for the audience, that we are not defined by our past failures, but by our capacity to grow, change, and try again. Kung Fu Panda also features an exploration of cultural identity. Though set in ancient China, the film never tries to disguise its Western origins. Instead, it celebrates the fusion of cultures, using the universal appeal of martial arts to create a story that resonates with global audiences. The film's creators actively incorporated Chinese cultural elements, from the architectural style of the Jade Palace to the philosophical ideas explored in the dialogue, making it a thoughtful homage to Chinese cinema. At the same time, the humor, action, and storytelling style remain quintessentially Western, bridging the gap between two worlds. And perhaps one of the most important social commentaries of the film is the way it portrays the relationship between parent and child. Po's father, Mr. Ping, represents a traditional view of success. He wants Po to take over the noodle shop, to follow in his footsteps and live a life of predictability and comfort. But Po's journey is one of divergence from his father's expectations. While Mr. Ping's love is unconditional, he must learn to accept that Po's destiny is not his own. This father-son dynamic is a poignant reminder of the pressures we face to live up to the expectations of those we love, and the courage it takes to follow our own path, even when it means disappointing those closest to us. Ultimately, the themes of Kung Fu Panda invite us to question the ways in which we define greatness, success, and worth. It asks us to consider whether our self-worth is defined by others or by our own acceptance of who we are. Through Po's journey, the film reveals that true greatness is not about fitting into a preordained mold, but about embracing our unique qualities and using them to find our own path to fulfillment. In doing so, Kung Fu Panda offers a timeless and deeply human message that resonates long after the credits roll. It reminds us that we are all capable of greatness, not because of what we lack, but because of what we are, exactly as we are. In Kung Fu Panda, every frame of the film is carefully crafted to immerse the audience in the story, blending dynamic visuals with a rich, emotionally resonant narrative. From the opening scene to the climactic battle, the visual storytelling not only complements the action but deepens the film's exploration of its central themes. The film's directors, Stevenson and Osborne, alongside cinematographer Chung Chung-hoon, created a visual experience that is both expansive and intimate, employing an array of techniques that elevate the emotional stakes while adding layers of depth to the story. One of the first things viewers notice when they enter the world of Kung Fu Panda is the vibrant color palette. Every setting, from the Jade Palace to the bustling town below, is awash with warm hues that evoke the traditional Chinese landscape. The lush greens of the valley, the golden warmth of the Jade Palace, and the dark shadows of the villain's lair all serve to reflect the story's tone, creating a visual shorthand for the underlying emotions of the narrative. This use of color isn't just aesthetic, it tells a story in itself. The contrast between Poe's world in the noodle shop, dull and gray, and the vibrant colors that emerge when he embraces his true identity, visually signals his transformation. The rich use of color helps set the emotional backdrop for Poe's journey from insecurity and self-doubt to confidence and self-acceptance. The cinematography in Kung Fu Panda also plays a crucial role in reflecting Poe's internal struggles and triumphs. The camera often follows Poe in a way that emphasizes his size and clumsiness in the early parts of the film. Wide shots accentuate his awkwardness as he struggles to keep up with the Furious Five, while close-ups are used to capture the vulnerability of his facial expressions. These techniques convey the emotional weight of his journey. He is the underdog, out of place in a world that values perfection. The camera also shifts, with rapid action shots, in moments where Poe taps into his unique talents, reflecting his growing sense of self-assurance. As the film progresses, the camera angle becomes more dynamic, mirroring his increased confidence and mastery of Kung Fu. The vibrant action sequences that follow Poe's acceptance of his true self use exaggerated camera movements and high-flying angles to create the sensation of boundless potential. This shift in cinematographic style enhances the viewer's understanding of Poe's personal growth. In the world of martial arts films, fight choreography is an essential element that defines the overall tone. Kung Fu Panda takes full advantage of this by employing choreography that blends the fluidity of traditional Chinese martial arts with the exaggeration of animated action. The movements of the characters are fast and highly stylized, almost cartoonish at times, but they never lose their connection to the authenticity of the martial art being referenced. Poe's fight scenes are often marked by a deliberate contrast between his natural clumsiness and the high-octane kung fu styles of the Furious Five. The choreography cleverly showcases Poe's struggle to find his footing, juxtaposed against the other characters' polished techniques. As Poe becomes more self-assured, the fluidity of his movements increases, showcasing his newfound mastery over himself and his environment. In his final battle against Tai Lung, Poe's fight style embraces his unconventional approach, weaving humor and unorthodox moves into the choreography, making it uniquely his own. The film's editing techniques are also integral to its visual storytelling. The editing seamlessly blends moments of high-paced action with slower, more introspective sequences. This balance ensures that the film doesn't lose its emotional depth, even as it escalates to explosive action scenes. For example, during Poe's training sequences, there's a careful juxtaposition of fast-paced, kinetic action cuts with lingering shots that show Poe's struggle and moments of reflection. These quiet moments are just as important as the action, allowing the audience to connect with Poe on an emotional level, understanding the inner conflict that drives him. The editing, therefore, doesn't just propel the story forward. It allows the audience to emotionally invest in Poe's journey and to savor the emotional beats that come with each small victory. The film's sound design and music, composed by Hans Zimmer and John Powell, play an equally vital role in enhancing the cinematic experience. The score in Kung Fu Panda is a beautiful fusion of Eastern and Western influences, combining traditional Chinese instruments with a sweeping orchestral arrangement. The music perfectly complements the film's visual style, moving from serene, meditative moments to full-blooded action cues with fluidity and ease. The iconic theme that plays during Poe's moments of triumph is a triumphant and inspiring orchestral piece, filling the viewer with a sense of hope and accomplishment as Poe comes into his own. The music feels as much a part of the storytelling as the visuals, echoing the emotional currents of Poe's journey, triumph, fear, self-doubt, and the eventual realization of his potential. The sound design also mirrors the film's visual style, creating a rich aural landscape that brings the world of Kung Fu Panda to life. The sound effects during the martial arts sequences are exaggerated but in a way that feels appropriate to the tone of the film. Each punch and kick is punctuated by stylized swooshes, thuds, and crashes, adding to the impact of the action while also maintaining the animated, over-the-top aesthetic. Yet, during the quieter moments, such as Poe's moments of introspection or his interactions with his father, the sound design takes on a softer, more intimate quality, drawing the audience in and giving weight to the emotional beats of the story. One of the most striking stylistic choices in the film is the blending of traditional 2D animation techniques with modern 3D animation. The opening sequence, in which Poe imagines himself as a kung fu master, uses 2D animation in a comic book style to evoke the grandeur and action of a kung fu epic. This segment, both a playful homage and a nod to traditional Chinese animation, contrasts sharply with the 3D animation that dominates the rest of the film. This technique is not just a visual gimmick but serves as a storytelling tool, allowing the film to reference the iconic tropes of kung fu films while simultaneously establishing its own animated world. The 2D sequences symbolize Poe's dreams and fantasies, a world he aspires to enter but is currently out of touch with. As Poe moves closer to realizing his true potential, the animation shifts fully into 3D, symbolizing his journey from a dreamer to someone living his reality. The film's use of visual metaphors and symbolism is also worth noting. As Poe navigates his path towards self-realization, the world around him becomes a mirror to his inner journey. The wide, expansive shots of the valley evoke the feeling of freedom and potential, while the narrow, confined spaces of the dojo reflect Poe's initial sense of being trapped by his own self-doubt. In moments of clarity, the frame often opens up, creating a sense of release and expansion, a visual cue that Poe is growing into the person he was always meant to be. Similarly, the final battle against Tai Lung takes place in a dramatic, highly stylized environment, where the environment itself becomes a battleground for the clash between these two forces of destiny. Director Mark Osborne and co-director John Stevenson consistently use visual elements to enhance the emotional tone of the film, creating a world that is not only visually stunning but thematically rich. Each scene feels carefully orchestrated to advance both the narrative and Poe's emotional development. Even in the action-heavy sequences, the emotional undercurrent is never lost. The visual storytelling in Kung Fu Panda doesn't just serve to entertain. It creates a deeper, immersive experience that communicates Poe's personal journey without ever needing to overtly tell the audience what is happening emotionally. At the heart of Kung Fu Panda's visual storytelling is its ability to blend action, humor, and emotional depth with seamless precision. The action is bold and exhilarating, but it is always grounded in the emotional arcs of the characters. The film's visual and auditory elements work in harmony to reinforce the themes of growth, transformation, and self-realization. The stylized visuals, dynamic cinematography, and evocative sound design create an experience that feels as much about feeling as it is about seeing, immersing the audience fully in Poe's world and making his journey all the more powerful and resonant. In this way, Kung Fu Panda isn't just a triumph of animation, it's a masterclass in visual storytelling, proving that when every element of filmmaking works together, the result can be something truly magical. The cast chemistry in Kung Fu Panda is one of the key elements that helped elevate the film from a fun, action-packed animated adventure to a heartwarming, unforgettable cinematic experience. The interactions between the characters, especially the central trio of Poe, Master Shifu, and the Furious Five, are integral not only to the narrative but also to the emotional resonance that makes the film so impactful. What truly makes the chemistry between the actors shine is the authenticity they bring to their roles, along with the way they play off each other, creating a dynamic that enhances the humor and the heartfelt moments throughout the film. Jack Black's portrayal of Poe is a perfect marriage of the actor's comedic timing and emotional depth. Known for his larger-than-life persona, Black brings an infectious energy to Poe, but it's his vulnerability and self-doubt that truly define the character's journey. Behind the scenes, Black infused Poe with his own blend of humor and heart, adding a layer of warmth to the character that makes him so endearing. Poe's struggles with his self-esteem and desire to prove himself are brought to life through Black's ability to balance both comedy and pathos, creating a character that resonates with viewers of all ages. What's fascinating is how Black's energy was able to balance out the more reserved and disciplined personalities of the other characters. His interactions with Dustin Hoffman's Master Shifu were particularly pivotal in shaping the film's emotional backbone. Hoffman's Shifu is a stern, wise teacher, but also a character with his own fears and insecurities. The tension between Shifu's strict mentorship and Poe's unorthodox style forms the foundation of their unlikely bond. Hoffman's depth brought an emotional weight to Shifu, but it was Black's willingness to embrace Poe's flaws that allowed the relationship between the two to evolve into something truly special. The chemistry between the Furious Five, voiced by Angelina Jolie, Lucy Liu, Seth Rogen, David Cross, and Jackie Chan, also plays a crucial role in the film's success. Each of these characters, from the graceful tigress to the quirky mantis, brings a unique energy that helps define the dynamic of the team. Jolie's tigress is the most serious and driven of the group, and her rivalry with Poe serves as both a comedic contrast and an avenue for Poe's personal growth. Jolie's grounded and intense portrayal of Tigress adds weight to the character, making her eventual acceptance of Poe feel all the more earned. Liu's Viper, with her gentleness and strong sense of loyalty, provides a balance to Tigress's more serious demeanor, while Rogen's Mantis and Cross's Crane inject lightheartedness into the group. Jackie Chan's Monkey is as energetic as he is wise, contributing a certain charm to the group dynamic. The voice actors' natural camaraderie shines through in their performances, making the Furious Five not just a team of martial artists, but a family bound together by their shared commitment to kung fu. Behind the scenes, it's clear that the cast members enjoyed a unique working environment that allowed for spontaneous moments and authentic reactions. Jack Black, for instance, was known to improvise much of his dialogue, adding a sense of improvisational humor that allowed Poe to feel more real and relatable. This spontaneity extended to the other actors as well. Dustin Hoffman, known for his perfectionism, was able to inject his personal sense of vulnerability into Master Shifu, drawing on his own experiences of self-doubt to bring a grounded quality to the role. The combination of improvisation and deeply personal investment in the characters helped create a dynamic that resonated deeply with audiences, turning Poe's journey into something much more than just a martial arts adventure. The animation team at DreamWorks Animation also played an essential role in bringing this chemistry to life. The characters' physical performances were influenced by the voice actors' mannerisms and emotions, helping to add layers of authenticity to each character. For example, Poe's exaggerated gestures and expressive face are a direct reflection of Jack Black's comedic style, while Master Shifu's stern and calculated movements are inspired by Dustin Hoffman's intense presence. The animators worked closely with the actors to ensure that the physicality of the characters matched their personalities, creating a seamless blend of voice and visual performance. This attention to detail, combined with the incredible performances from the cast, resulted in a film where the characters feel fully realized and their relationships believable. Audience reactions to Kung Fu Panda were overwhelmingly positive, and the film's ability to connect with viewers of all ages has been one of its lasting strengths. When the film first hit theaters on June 6, 2008, it quickly garnered praise for its blend of humor, heart, and action. The characters' emotional depth, combined with the film's stunning animation, left audiences thoroughly impressed. What stood out the most was how the film tackled the familiar underdog story in a fresh and engaging way. Poe, as a clumsy and self-doubting panda, was an unlikely hero, but his growth throughout the story felt earned and relatable. Viewers found themselves rooting for Poe from start to finish, connecting with his journey on an emotional level. The film's humor, particularly Jack Black's comedic delivery, kept audiences laughing, but it was the emotional moments, Poe's struggle with self-worth, his eventual acceptance of his unique abilities, and his bond with Master Shifu, that resonated most deeply. The film's balance between action and emotional depth made it a standout in the animated genre. Critics also praised the film for its impressive animation and vibrant visual style. The action sequences, particularly the kung fu fight scenes, were widely lauded for their fluidity and dynamic choreography. The animation team employed traditional Chinese martial arts techniques and blended them seamlessly with the film's animated aesthetic, making the action both visually stunning and highly engaging. The fight scenes were not just about flashy moves but about character development, with Poe's unorthodox fighting style becoming a symbol of his growth and acceptance of his true self. This focus on character-driven action set Kung Fu Panda apart from many other animated films, earning it praise for its ability to use its medium to tell a more profound story. The film also received accolades for its voice performances. Jack Black's portrayal of Poe was a standout, with many praising his ability to blend humor with genuine emotion. The chemistry between Black and Hoffman was particularly praised, as their performances helped to ground the film's emotional core. The voice cast's ability to convey depth and warmth in their characters made Poe's journey feel real, and their natural chemistry helped the film feel more like a team effort than a solo hero's tale. Over the years, Kung Fu Panda has continued to grow in popularity, with a dedicated fanbase that eagerly anticipated each new installment in the series. Fans have embraced the characters, the world, and the overarching themes of the film, creating a lasting cultural impact. The film's success led to 2 sequels, Kung Fu Panda 2, 2011, and Kung Fu Panda 3, 2016. Each expanding upon the original's legacy while maintaining the heart and humor that made the first film so beloved. The franchise also spurred merchandise, video games, and even a television series, Kung Fu Panda, Legends of Awesomeness, further cementing its place in pop culture. Fans continue to celebrate the characters, sharing their love for Poe and the Furious Five through cosplay, fan art, and online communities, keeping the spirit of the film alive long after its release. What makes Kung Fu Panda so enduring is its ability to resonate on multiple levels. It's a film about finding one's place in the world, accepting imperfections, and embracing the power within. These themes continue to inspire audiences, young and old, ensuring that Poe's journey will remain relevant for years to come. The film's cultural impact, its beloved characters, and its emotional depth have made it more than just a successful animated film. It has become a timeless classic. Behind the scenes, Kung Fu Panda was a labor of love that involved a combination of passion, creativity, and collaboration. The chemistry between the actors, the animators, and the creative team helped to bring the film to life in a way that felt authentic and deeply personal. The cast's ability to infuse their characters with warmth, humor, and vulnerability made the film's emotional moments land with power. Audience reactions and critical reception confirmed the film's place in the pantheon of animated greats, and its lasting popularity shows that Poe's story is one that continues to resonate. Kung Fu Panda is more than just a beloved animated film. It has carved out a legacy that continues to shape the world of animation, influence filmmaking, and resonate with audiences across the globe. Released in 2008, it marked a watershed moment in the animation genre, blending humor, heart, and stunning visuals in a way that felt fresh, original, and timeless. But its influence stretches far beyond the realm of animation, reaching into pop culture, film history, and the wider conversations surrounding the portrayal of underdog stories. As we reflect on its lasting impact, it's clear that Kung Fu Panda is a film that is destined to endure for generations. At its core, Kung Fu Panda revitalized the animation landscape. Prior to its release, animated films often leaned heavily on slapstick humor, simplistic narratives, and a predictable formula. While these films were beloved by audiences, there was a growing desire for more depth, films that could appeal to both children and adults while offering more complex characters, nuanced storytelling, and themes that went beyond the surface. Kung Fu Panda answered that call in spectacular fashion. It took the familiar underdog story, a theme explored in countless films, and infused it with a fresh perspective, using a love for martial arts, rich Chinese cultural references, and an incredibly relatable hero in Poe. By juxtaposing Poe's humorous, often clumsy nature with deep emotional stakes, the film resonated with viewers on multiple levels, setting it apart from other animated films of the time. In terms of filmmaking, Kung Fu Panda pushed the boundaries of what animated films could achieve. While its visual style was heavily influenced by traditional Chinese art and martial arts cinema, it also introduced groundbreaking animation techniques that brought the film's action sequences to life in new and exciting ways. The fight choreography, which was influenced by classic kung fu films, was meticulously crafted, blending fast-paced action with detailed character movements. This not only made the fight scenes visually striking but also gave them emotional weight, as each clash served as a reflection of the characters' growth and personal struggles. The filmmakers also used sophisticated rendering techniques to create stunning landscapes, bringing the world of the Valley of Peace and the surrounding regions to life with a vibrant, dynamic aesthetic. The animation itself became a character in its own right, seamlessly blending with the film's themes of self-discovery, discipline, and the search for inner peace. The film's groundbreaking visual style and intricate character design were part of a larger shift in the animation industry towards more sophisticated, artful films. Kung Fu Panda demonstrated that animated films could push the envelope both visually and thematically, leading the way for subsequent films in the genre to take similar risks. Studios like Pixar, DreamWorks, and even smaller independent animation houses took inspiration from the success of Kung Fu Panda, exploring more complex narratives, culturally diverse settings, and more mature themes. Kung Fu Panda set a precedent for films like Zootopia, 2016, Big Hero 6, 2014, and The Lego Movie, 2014, each of which demonstrated that animation could be both artistically ambitious and narratively meaningful, creating a genre renaissance that continues to this day. Culturally, Kung Fu Panda sparked a conversation about martial arts in cinema, a genre that had long been dominated by live-action films. It brought the action-packed, high-energy spectacle of martial arts to a wider audience, introducing younger generations to the genre while honoring its roots. The film's homage to kung fu classics like Enter the Dragon, 1973, and The 36th Chamber of Shaolin, 1978, was not only a celebration of martial arts films but also a tribute to their legacy within pop culture. Its influence can be seen in the way that subsequent films, TV shows, and even video games integrated martial arts themes, stylized choreography, and philosophical elements into their narratives. The film played a significant role in broadening the appeal of martial arts to global audiences, blending high-energy action with moments of quiet introspection. Beyond the world of filmmaking, Kung Fu Panda became a cultural touchstone, seeping into everyday life through memes, references, and fan art. The character of Po became an iconic figure, instantly recognizable for his clumsy yet endearing nature, his iconic catchphrases, and his transformation into a true kung fu master. The image of Po, with his dumpling-loving heart and self-doubt, became symbolic of the universal human experience, the desire to grow, the fear of failure, and the eventual triumph that comes with embracing one's flaws. This relatability helped the film transcend its animated genre, appealing not just to children but to adults who found Po's journey to be a powerful metaphor for overcoming obstacles in their own lives. On a larger cultural scale, Kung Fu Panda also provided representation for Chinese culture and philosophy in a way that was accessible and respectful. The film subtly wove elements of Chinese traditions, beliefs, and martial arts history into its narrative without feeling overly didactic. It wasn't just a cultural backdrop. It was essential to the story. The film explored themes of inner peace, self-acceptance, and the importance of mentorship, ideas deeply rooted in Chinese philosophy, particularly in Taoism and Confucianism. In doing so, Kung Fu Panda introduced a generation of viewers to concepts that were both timeless and universally applicable, elevating the film's cultural significance. The success of Kung Fu Panda was not confined to box office earnings or audience reactions. It also earned a slew of accolades, including Academy Award nominations for Best Animated Feature and recognition at various other award ceremonies. Its critical and commercial success paved the way for sequels and spin-offs, ensuring its place in the pantheon of animated classics. The film's positive reception by both critics and audiences helped to solidify DreamWorks Animation's place as a key player in the animation industry, and Po's character, along with his journey, became a lasting symbol of perseverance, humility, and self-discovery. As time has passed, Kung Fu Panda has maintained its relevance and importance. It's a film that holds up under repeated viewings, with layers of meaning that only become clearer with age. For younger audiences, Po's adventure remains a fun, thrilling experience filled with memorable characters and stunning action sequences. For older viewers, the film offers deeper reflections on life, purpose, and the complexities of self-identity. It is a rare achievement for a film to manage to strike a balance between entertaining and inspiring, but Kung Fu Panda does so effortlessly. What makes its legacy so enduring is not just its cultural impact, but its ability to continue to engage with new generations. The film's timeless themes of finding one's true calling, overcoming self-doubt, and embracing imperfections have made it a source of inspiration for countless individuals. The ongoing popularity of the Kung Fu Panda franchise, including its sequels, TV series, and video games, shows that the love for Po and his friends is far from fading. Fans continue to embrace the story, sharing their favorite moments and lessons learned from the film. The franchise remains an important part of the cultural landscape, a testament to the lasting impact of the original film. As we reflect on the legacy of Kung Fu Panda, it's clear that its significance goes far beyond the film itself. It opened new doors for animated films, redefined what was possible within the genre, and connected with audiences in ways few films ever do. The film's success wasn't just due to its humor or its action, but to its deep emotional core, its authentic characters, and its ability to capture something universal and timeless. Kung Fu Panda will always be remembered as a game-changing film in the world of animation, a film that not only entertained but also inspired, and one that will continue to be cherished for years to come. Kung Fu Panda stands as one of the most memorable and influential animated films of the 21st century. Its unique blend of humor, heart, and breathtaking action has not only redefined the expectations for animated films but also solidified its place as a timeless classic. With its vibrant world, memorable characters, and universal themes, the film transcends the boundaries of its genre, offering a cinematic experience that appeals to audiences of all ages. From its groundbreaking animation techniques to its emotionally resonant storytelling, Kung Fu Panda continues to inspire and captivate viewers across the globe. But what truly sets this film apart is how it manages to strike that delicate balance between entertaining action and profound life lessons, making it a film that lingers long after the credits roll.